And I found hydrogen very early in my career because I'm an aerospace engineer by training, and my very first job actually was working for Boeing on the
Oh,
development of launch vehicles, which were fueled by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. Yeah, all my degrees in aerospace engineering, and the majority of that was in the space program.
gosh, good. Same.
Well, I'm a huge science fiction fan. So I think what really got me interested in it was my love of science fiction since a little kid and fascination with space travel, fascination of other worlds, potentially finding alien civilizations and wanting to facilitate that. There's two ways that you can extract energy from hydrogen. One is by combustion, which is how it's used in launch vehicles, which is liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen. And the other is an electrochemical way, which is using a fuel cell. And in our implementation, a proton exchange membrane fuel cell. And the real benefit of hydrogen is its energy density. So it's got about 3 times the energy density, which is energy per unit mass, as compared to Jet A. So it is flammable, it is combustible, but as is gasoline, as is LL, as is
Mhm.
avgas. So it's about how you store it, how you treat it, how you manage it. And in many ways, and we can talk about this in detail, there are aspects of using hydrogen in the way that you could conceivably vent it on overboard if you had an engine out, where it actually makes it safer because you wouldn't even have explosion potential on the ground as you would with gasoline, avgas, or Jet A. So hydrogen fuel cell technology is still an air-breathing system because you do require oxygen to complete the electrochemical reaction.
So
We think that it's better to start with smaller aircraft and lower altitude aircraft. I like to refer to a hydrogen fuel cell as a hydrogen ion battery as compared to a lithium ion battery, but I can talk you through the process of how the fuel cell works, if that would help.
Well, is it lighter than lithium batteries?
Oh, it's significantly lighter. So when you look at the specific energy that you get for, let's say, a 3 to 5 hour endurance aircraft, you get 10 times the performance
So
in
why
terms of endurance.
why don't we see that right now, like across the board in a mass situation?
So we are starting to see it in the automotive sector. So I myself own a hydrogen fuel cell car in California. You're able to refuel it. It's commercially available. There are 3 different companies that make them. And I think in general, in the aviation space, bringing in new technology takes more time. So we're
Yeah.
only starting to see the first experimental implementations of battery powered aircraft, as well as with us, hydrogen fuel cell powered aircraft.
I would like to put myself up as a volunteer in the Warrior because that sounds amazing.
And we would like to. That's actually why we're at Oshkosh, is that we want to have an initial implementation with our governmental program. We're actually funded by the Air Force and the AppWorks Agility Prime program for governmental use cases, but we also want to service the experimental aircraft community. We're working through the design. We'll have our first flight demonstration in the first quarter of next year. And that's the engineering process, right? You have to go through the design,
Right.
detailed design, but we have our aircraft. It's been stripped down. It's being built up now. We have all the parts. And so it's an issue of going through the design process, going through the approval process, and doing our first flight tests. The product that we actually have under development is for a Piper Archer
Oh,
class of aircraft.
28.
Exactly, which is what we have. You need to stop by our booth at Hangar D.
All right.
So that would work for you. But there is an STC process you have to go through. So it makes sense to actually work with the experimental community first and get it into a range of platforms, which will build more hours on the platform, which helps us. And then also to complete the STC with the FAA. Right now, we do have a Piper Archer, which obviously was certificated. The point is, I think our business model would be to support people like you, aircraft owners and operators who would like to become
Absolutely.
emission
That would
free.
be great.
what's the biggest obstacle stopping hydrogen from taking over?
So definitely the infrastructure side of things is a challenge. So just like you saw with, lithium ion battery cars, you have to have charging stations so that people could be able to charge when they're going from point A to point B.
Just about to ask that. It's not like you could stop in the middle of Missouri, fuel
At
up
an
and keep
FBO,
going. Yeah,
get
exactly.
hydrogen. Well, what is fueling like? I mean, is it like liquid hydrogen that you pour into the airplane?
So there are 2 different ways to do it. One is with high pressure gaseous hydrogen, which is how I fuel my car, which is how all the ground-based vehicles are designed. But in order to give you the payload margin that you want and the endurance that you want for an aircraft, which has its gross takeoff weight limitation, it does have to be liquid hydrogen. Liquid hydrogen actually happens to be easier to fuel and to transport in many ways. There are some things which are more difficult, such as the thermal environment. But those are the 2 options that you have available to you. But
What
we're
would
doing liquid.
what would the cost be like compared to avgas or Jet A for having hydrogen?
So there are pricing structures for hydrogen now. There's gray hydrogen, which is a hydrogen which has been produced by a hydrocarbon reforming process, which is the cheapest. There's green hydrogen, which is what we actually have in Los Angeles, which is about $7 per kilogram if you buy it directly from like a provider of hydrogen. And at the pump, you're paying roughly $16 per kilogram. But when you compare the cost per mile because of the energy efficiency of hydrogen and the energy efficiency of the hydrogen fuel cell, it's actually cheaper to fuel your hydrogen fuel cell car than it is your gasoline powered car because of the price of gasoline. Right. It is
Oh.
way greener because the way the fuel cell works is the hydrogen gas is dissociated into hydrogen ions, which flow through a polymer electrolyte, combined with oxygen ions, which come from the air, and produce an exhaust product, which is water. So the only product, your only emission is water.